Hi, hey, y'all. This is Ruby here. Happy Friday. Friday. Woo! I don't know about y'all, but it has been a week. Um, but we coming into Friday, taking care of the business that needs to be taken care of, because we know that every day we get a chance to do this. So if this is your first time joining, hi, my name is Ruby Powell-Dennis. I am running for Tennessee State Senate, District 31. Um, District 31 covers Cordova, Collierville, Germantown, East Memphis, starting at the Poplar and Highland Corridor. It includes the beautiful city of Lakeland, Arlington, as well as, of course, unincorporated Shelby County. My district is like the easternmost part of my district is just 14 miles from the Blue Oval City. And so I'm proud to be running to represent the 220,000 ish people who live, work, and play in 31. And so today I wanted to, just talk about what makes our district unique, why it is so easy to love the people, the families that live in district, and also just even when we don't agree, to keep in mind there's a way to move forward and there's a way to get work done, because nowhere in human history has it ever required 100% consensus to make sure that we take care of people, and to take care of one another. We can do that anytime because we can do hard things. And so I wanted to spend today's conversation just checking in. Hey, welcome, Robert. Thanks for being with us. Just checking in with folks. One, even though the media may move past things and onto the next story, onto the next situation, our team, myself, we continue to lift up those who are impacted by senseless violence in our communities, those who are still impacted by the fact that, we have rape kits that are not processed. So I always want to start with the hard stuff and make sure that folks know we are lifting up the victims of our systems, the victims of our justice systems, and hopeful, prayerful, and just relentlessly expecting, justice to be served and for people to experience some sort of relief, in light of everything that's happening. So I want to make sure I start by lifting folks up and just letting people know that's still on my heart, my mind, and my staff's mind. Um, because even if the media moves on, we have to keep the conversation going, until folks get the justice they deserve. So, in terms of Senate District 31, we are less than 50 days from Election Day, y'all. Um, October 11th is the last time to register to vote if you want to vote in the November 8th election. One of the things that makes our Senate district really special and really unique is that we are actually a purple district. Um, Folks think the further out east you go, things are, the voices and the people who live in our communities don't care about others. And that could be further from the truth. Every day, I get a chance to talk to people who love and lift up and believe in the absolute best, and that our children, our neighbors, even when they don't agree, still deserve good things. And there's one particular community that I want to make sure that I spotlight, and that's our folks out in Collierville. I had a chance to talk with Chelsea Glass, who is running for school board, and we just talked about, why this election is so important and how it is just unfortunate that in 2022, we know that diverse voices matter. And no woman, no candidate should feel as though the community that you grew up in, the community that you love, you shouldn't be afraid. And I just want y'all to know I'm lifting up Chelsea. I think she would be a remarkable school board member, because what we know is that school board members, it's not about you having all the instructional answers. It's a governance board. It's a board that is meant to, you're serving the very least of people. Public school education is for the very least of us. Um, if it weren't for a public school education, millions and millions and millions of Americans would go uneducated. And so you don't need to have people who all agree and see education one way on a school board. That ain't the purpose of that exercise. That's why you got a superintendent. That's why you got chief academic officers. You got people who went to school for education. And so I think Chelsea would be an incredible school board member. I'm just lifting up our Collierville community because, in addition to being impacted by gun violence, no one who lives in a community and who grows up there should feel as though they, don't, can't, and will not be able to serve on their school board. And so I just wanted to make sure I shouted, Chelsea out. I'm shouting out the ladies and gentlemen and individuals who are working and fighting for justice in Collierville, and who recognize that you don't have to have a homogenous community for a community to be safe. You don't have to have a homogenous, you know, you know, ethnic community for something to be safe. You don't have to have homogenous beliefs on the school board. You don't you cannot prepare children for the future of our country and our world if, when they need us to tell them about stuff, we whitewash or avoid the difficult conversations because it makes adults feel uncomfortable. And so, that's why I love our district. In spite of the great big old lie they tell about Senate District 31 being red, it's a great big old lie. How you know it's a great big old lie is because people wouldn't try to buy the Senate seat. They would just run on their word, their name, and their policies. That would be enough. And so, I just am lifting folks up and letting folks know, people care about democracy, justice, equity, inclusion, safe communities, low taxes, regardless of your political affiliation. Um, and so I just want to acknowledge and just, send some love to my folks in Collierville who are out there doing the good work. I also want to send some love to my folks out in Germantown, Lakeland, and Arlington. Again, y'all, we are choosing to live in 31, not because we're running away from anything, but rather you got to organize wherever you are. Everybody wants to live in a safe community, and everyone wants to live around people who care about their well-being, because your neighbors, the people at church, the people who you see around you, that's your safety net. You know, we can't let national politics. Let me tell you something. I ain't never met Joe Biden. I have never met this guy. As far as Ruby is concerned, he is a human being who puts his pants on one leg at a time. So I'm not going to let what he decides tell me what I know. And I say that and use that because, again, we keep talking to people who, they'll say it in the comments, all this stuff about all these other people that they're doing. And we're like, wait a minute, but we live here in Shelby County. We work here in Shelby County. We serve here in Shelby County. And so I just want to make sure that I name that just because people share the same political party doesn't mean we're going to lockstep follow people all the way, even if they're going off a cliff. Because you need leaders who are going to stand in the gap and do what's right, even when it's not popular. So Robert's got a question. How will Chelsea address the hot button issue of book censorship that is prevalent in the media today? Purple district, but the red part is very aggressive on this. My thoughts. Well, I'm going to let Chelsea speak for herself, because the one thing I know about Chelsea is she does check the comments, and she's very engaged on social media, so I'll let her speak to that. What I will speak to is from a perspective of being a former school administrator, the impact of these bans and the policy. So what happens when someone who's never worked in a school decides that books should be banned? That means that the book fair, Scholastic Book Fair, that we all love and grew up with, they have to audit all of their books and authors to pull all of that out. They didn't have special book fairs that go to Title I schools, um, all kinds of schools, reward schools, and those books are not accessible to those students. Now, if each school and district has to decide what is censored and what is not, can you imagine what this year's book fair is going to be like in the state of Tennessee if our children will even get access to something like that? And I use it as a small example because the book fair is something that we all love. I mean, every kid, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I was in the International Baccalaureate program, so I like to read. Um, when it would come, I would just be over the moon in middle school, junior high, about getting access to books that I could not get at the local library because I lived in a very small town that was segregated along lines of race. And so, these are the types of policy impacts. It's not just folks in our urban centers, but people in rural communities where the book fair might be the only type of children's literature available outside the public library. You may not have enough money to be able to go buy books for your children in your home. And Dolly Parton's, Imagination Library stops at age 5. So again, when you talk about book bans and knowledge, I mean, Fahrenheit 461, there are books that talk about this. And when we start limiting access to information, what is the real impact of that on having an educated society and an educated workforce? So again, I'll let Chelsea speak to her portion of it. But, from a policy perspective, if you've ever had to audit a classroom library, you would know that banning books of any kind because you just don't like them has negative implications on teachers and our systems at schools because you're creating unnecessary work simply because of your own personal likes and dislikes. But that's the beauty of literature. Literature allows you to read something that you might not otherwise experience and take a journey in your mind to understand a perspective that might be different than yours. And so anytime we remove that option for our children, we are not creating a more prepared, educated, or stable workforce. Instead, we are positioning people for lifelong poverty because knowledge is power. That's why it's called KIPP. If you can teach yourself to read, once you learn to read, you can teach yourself anything. Again, once you learn to read, you can teach yourself anything. But if you cannot get access to a book, then how can you work to understand the perspective of others? So thank you for your question, Robert. I appreciate it. And again, whether a place is red, purple, or green, they used to ban Judy Blume books. And we look back now and we think, wow, it was controversial to say we must increase our, that was controversial. Um, and so we have a track record as a country of not doing the best job when it comes to book bans. We have a track record of that not working to improve our workforce, and so I think that's just a policy decision that we're all going to pay a pretty high price for, especially when we're already struggling with strong literacy rates, strong literacy outcomes for kids, especially in our rural and under-resourced communities. So let's talk about a little bit more about the things I love in District 31. When COVID hit and many of us could not go, it was not safe. It was safer at home. One of the things that I appreciated most about our community is people got out and just started walking and talking and being with one another. And that is something that I tell folks, it continues on to this moment. When I'm coming in and around the district canvassing, dropping my kids off to school, you still see people walking, talking, waving, saying hi. That's the District 31 that I know. Um, and it's important that we remind one another that, we are civil, we can disagree, we cannot have the same beliefs, but it is still A-OK. And it's always right to take care of folks in Shelby County and to be kind to one another. That never goes out of style. That's not political propaganda. Um, there's lots of things we learn in the K through 12 education system that teach us, kindness is a choice. And that even when we disagree, that doesn't mean that people's opinions and perspectives are not valuable. So that's something that I always like to shine a light on in our district, that when I'm walking around, when I'm talking with people, people are speaking, they're saying, hey, they stop me, they ask me about my shirt, they ask me about my campaign, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for those folks and those voices. The other thing I want to talk about before we sign off, in addition to any questions you might have in the comments, the other thing I want to highlight is we have a beautiful tapestry of people who are choosing to move into our community, who might be folks who are immigrating to our country. And so we are showing them for the first time what it means to be an American. At the campaign office this morning, I had a gentleman come in who talked about how he just became a citizen. He is working to register to vote. And I just started telling him, it doesn't matter who you vote for. Just make sure you're registered to vote by October 11th. But what drew him in the office was that he noticed we had signs up on our window in Arabic, English, and in Spanish. And what they told him was this was a place that was safe to come into to register to vote. And again, let's be clear. This is someone who is a naturalized citizen who went through all the channels to legally acquire his citizenship. And so we have to just acknowledge that even if someone doesn't look as though, whatever, I'm not going to even speculate. because we can be very biased based on looks. There are still people in our district who are proud to be Americans, who don't take democracy for granted because they are coming from countries and places where there is extreme civil unrest. And then they come to our great nation, our beautiful county, our wonderful communities. And it's important that we warmly welcome them because the truly powerful are not petty. It costs us nothing to be kind and to help and support those who, through all the legal means, who want to register to vote and participate in our elections. And as I was talking to the gentleman and encouraging him and his wife and his family to just come by, bring the kids, because we have a kids' corner in our office, I said, even if you don't vote Democrat, please vote. Because the one thing about being an American that's important, and this applies to anyone, is you got to fight for the democracy and protect it. Because if we don't, we won't have it. So I asked y'all to go vote. I ask you to check your voter registration links. Excuse me, your voter registration status. I'll post the link again on my page. And just be mindful that participating in democracy and participating in the voting process should not be punitive to anyone. We are the greatest nation on this planet. When you are powerful, you have the capacity to be welcoming. When you are powerful, you have the capacity to lead others and to show empathy. And kindness costs us nothing. And so I'm just proud to be leading a campaign and a team that's at the core of who we are. We are a tapestry of folks from all different backgrounds, different experiences, different ages, different parts of the county. And so I just want to close by saying I love you, Shelby County. I am grateful for every single conversation that I get to have. And that when we get the opportunity to do what's right, let's do it, Shelby County. I appreciate y'all. You stay safe. And I will talk to you next Friday from the lovely city of Washington, D.C., where I'll be joining about 18,000 other people talking about the issues that are impacting African Americans and Black people in the United States and abroad. And also just what needs to be true and how do we advocate and hold President Biden accountable to make sure that we get the outcomes that Americans want and need ahead and right at the midterm elections. Y'all stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.